Hey everybody! So this week you're going to be writing your cover letters in lab, or refining them if you've already gotten a head start. Now the first thing you need to do when preparing to write a cover letter is actually go back and review the information we talked about in Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. Chapter 4 we talked about writing. This is where we covered the 7 deadly sins of business writing. We talked about ending in a call to action, making sure we use short, concise sentences and short, concise paragraphs. Chapter 5 is when we talked about how to revise, and we also went over the template for writing a letter. Now, if you don't have that material saved, just go back to Blackboard announcements. I haven't taken down any of the lecture materials, so those templates that we talked about in the third week of class, as well as all of my notes, are still posted there for you to review. So when you actually are prepared to write your cover letter, the first thing you need to do is think about the purpose, and that you've got to keep in mind the whole time. The purpose of your cover letter is to explain the fit between your resume, your experience, your training, and what they're looking for. When you're writing your cover letter, you can't assume that it's going to be immediately obvious how your training and education actually matches what they look for. So you've got to spell that out to people. If you need to do this, your cover letter can also be a point in which you explain holes in your resume. For example, if you're a new freshman or an early sophomore and you don't have a lot on your resume, your cover letter is where you have an opportunity to explain that. Well, this is my first year of college, so I'm trying to transition into this new college lifestyle, and here are the things that I've begun to get involved with. Here are the things I'm going to do next year. Or let's say, for example, that you're a senior and you've had an internship or two over the summer, but actually you haven't had any work experience during the school year. But you're one of our outstanding scholars that is required to do 10 hours of community service per week. Well, this is where you explain that. I'm very dedicated as a student and as a campus and community citizen. I spend 10 hours a week volunteering here, here, and here. That's where you explain the things that might not be obvious initially looking at your resume, that might look like holes but really aren't. They're very explainable. So when you start writing, okay, it's a business letter. So you need to keep in mind that it's going to fit that introduction, body, conclusion format. Look at the job call that you selected in lab. From that job call, you need to select 3 to 5 key terms that really fit you well. And you're going to use those as a guide for how to write your cover letter. You want to use their language in their call as much as possible because, again, this is how you're showing that you fit. Also, sometimes cover letters, just like resumes, get run through an automatic sifting system, and you get points and sorted according to how many of their terms you're using. So you want to make sure that as often as possible they're using their words rather than your own. So, your introduction. Introductions to cover letters are pretty much paint by numbers. First thing you do is state your purpose. Please accept this application for the opening of blah, 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 and position number blah, 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 right? State exactly what job you're applying for. And then explain or state where you found that job call. This may sound counterintuitive, but it's something that we've recently had to start doing because different formats of job calls sometimes have different information. So for example, a job call that you see in the newspaper may not have the exact same information that a job call does that's posted in Indeed.com. So because of that, your potential employer needs to know what sort of information you were asked to provide so that they can more effectively judge how well you provided that information. And then the last thing you need to do is preview your main points, which of course will be those key terms that you pulled directly from the job call. Now, your call asks for someone who has excellent critical thinking skills and communication skills, which fits well with my training, right? Something like that. So, introduction, state your purpose, state where you found the job call, and then preview your main points. Then in the body, you typically have one paragraph in the body per key term that you want to describe. And you've got to provide evidence. So for example, let's say that critical thinking skill is something the job is asking for. And so you've got to explain how you know you have critical thinking skills. I mean, it's good if you think that you do, but you can't just say, I have good critical thinking skills and I know that I do the following things. You've got to provide evidence. So cite specific tasks that you've had to do that utilize your critical thinking skills, or cite specific courses you've had that have helped refine them. Let them know exactly what on your resume supports that you've got good, strong critical thinking skills. Okay. This is also in the body where you can explain any holes in your resume. So you can have a small paragraph towards the bottom of the letter that says, in my resume, you may have noticed whatever your hole is, and then explain that hole for them. The last thing you're going to write is the conclusion. The conclusion, like the introduction, is very much paint by numbers. So the first sentence is going to be a transition from the body to the conclusion. The second sentence is going to be a review of your main points, and again, alluding to the fact that they match the job call. And the third sentence is a call to action. So once you're done writing the content, you've got to format it. Again, look at that letter format template that you have on Blackboard. Also, your textbook shows many, many different formatting templates for letters that are all business professional. Do not, I cannot emphasize this enough, do not use the business letter templates provided by Microsoft Word. They are all wrong. They are all very pretty, but none of them are in business format, and you do not want to fall into the hole of looking bad because you used a template. Please, please, please don't do that, okay? Remember, when you're formatting your letter, to remove the extra space between paragraphs. And remember that you get the special tricks, like looking at the letter. After your date, you have 3 blank lines before your receiver address. Remember that between your closing and your type name, there are 3 blank lines, that there's 1 blank line between all of your other blocks. Review those templates very carefully. And also remember that your resume and your cover letter, again, they are a match set. So whatever header you created for your resume needs to be the same header you use for your cover letter. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm available all week by email, so don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or problems.